In this video, I'm going to give a full walkthrough of our Mould Investigation Report template. This report has been built with the help of the Australian College of Environmental Studies, and it will save time when collecting data and creating reports for water damage building investigations. So before I start, I'll explain there are two parts to the software. There's the dashboard, which you can see here, and there's the mobile app, which you can now see on the right-hand side. The two things work in constant real-time communication with each other. So let's begin by scheduling up a job. The first thing you'll want to do is to create a new job. Type the name of your client and your internal job reference if you have one. Pop in the address. This is where you'll be surveying the building. And then you'll need to choose a pipeline. I'm going to choose the Mould Investigations pipeline. This just determines the stages that the job needs to go through before it's considered complete. Pop in your site work date, let's say it's today, and assign this to the relevant surveyors. And the due date is when you expect to get the report to your client, let's say tomorrow. Now, keep an eye on the mobile app on the right-hand side. As soon as I click save, the job has been instantly synced with the mobile app. You've now got two options. You can either add a report in the dashboard, or you can add a report on the mobile app. Because we'll be doing some work prior to going to site, let's add a report in the dashboard. Now this is where you're going to do your history of the occupants and so on prior to going to site, usually via a Zoom call or something like that. Now in this demo, I'm going to gloss over many of the sections. I don't want to bore you with data entry. If you want more information about how to complete each section and the reasoning behind each field, then please check out a separate video that was recorded by Nicole Bijlsma at the Australian College of Environmental Studies. She's the expert here, not me, so she can give you a much better understanding of why you would complete these different sections and the kind of information you're going to put into them. So I strongly suggest you check that out. So as you can see from the first section, we're expected to complete this section prior to going to the site. And this is going to include any disclaimers or liabilities that you may have. I would suggest copying these from another report or from a notepad version that you have somewhere. The objectives is the information provided by the client. Why have they instigated this investigation and what do they want to get out of it? For example, are they having health issues and that's the reason for getting in touch? And you may want to complete these sections with the client over an online call or telephone call or something like that. The rest of this information you can build up before going to site, things like the air temperature, wind, area classification, climate zone, and so on. The next section is the property information and building history. Again, you're going to want to speak to the occupants prior to going to site, either over a telephone call or online call. And this is where you're going to start to build up a history of the building and also a potential exposure history for the occupants. So complete these sections with the help of the occupants or the client. And for areas such as this, visible mold, condensation, and odor, you're going to want to ask the client if they have any awareness of these kind of issues within the property, and they're going to be able to point you to those potential areas of investigation. Another important step to building up the exposure history is to put in the occupants. So let's go ahead and add one now. You can add as many occupants as required. So that's the first occupant added. You can repeat this for as many occupants as you need. Next is the water events. You can add as many water events as required, and you're going to do this with the help of the client. So pop in the estimated date when the water event happened, put a description of the water event, and the class of water loss and the category of water. So at this point, we're really finished in the office, and we can head to site and start using the mobile app to collect data and start carrying out our investigation. So let's head over to the mobile app. I'm going to drill into the job and drill into the report. Now, you can see that the first sections have been marked as complete. We've got this little check now. I went away in the background. I added some data for some of those first sections just to sort of pad them out a little bit. I didn't want to bore you with the data entry at the time. So I can scroll down to the cover page photo. And at this point, you're standing outside of the building. You're going to want to take a snap to show where you were, and this is going to form your cover page. Now, if I was using the actual mobile app, I would use the camera, which was that top option we saw before. But because I'm using a simulator, I'm selecting a photo from my gallery. Now I click save. That section's now been checked off, and I can move on to the next one, the consultants. So for this one, I'm going to say that I was one of the consultants. I can optionally put in my qualifications, experience, and so on, but I'll not do that right now. Now we get to the air quality section. So for this, you can add as many internal or external readings and measurements as you want. I'm going to do an internal one. I'm going to say we're in the bathroom. The time will be now. Temperature, say 18.5 for this. Humidity, and also the specific humidity. That last one was the relative humidity. So there's one item. I'm going to add a second one. And this one, let's do the bedroom. And for the air temperature, I'll say 18.8 for this one. Humidity is going to be particularly high. And the specific humidity, I'm going to say 8.5 for this one. So we've added two air quality sets of readings there, one from the bathroom, one from the bedroom, and you could continue in the same way. Now we get to the inspection section. This is where you're going to spend a lot of your time. So I'm going to add an internal reading, internal inspection item rather, and you can see we've got the option of recording either information about an entire room as a whole or a surface reading. So let's say we're making a surface reading. It's on the ground floor. I'm going to say we're in the lobby and in the windowsill rather. We can record some observations here and take a couple of photos. Again, I'm going to select one from my gallery here, but if you're using the app, you'd use this top option, which would open the native camera. We can then record any observations we saw with additional photos if required. I'm not going to fill those in right now. We can record details of the meter that we used, the penetration type, and any moisture map information we've got as well. So save that once you're done. We can then create a second item if we want to, using a shortcut. We could say add item here if we found something else in the lobby. Perhaps this time it's a room inspection. You can record information about the odor, settled dust, and so on. And complete the rest of this in your own time. So you can see it was relatively easy there to add two inspection items. You're going to continue in the same way, adding inspection items as you survey the property until you are finished. Once that's done, navigate back to the inspection list. Now we have the option to add some HVAC inspection items. This might not be relevant to the type of building you're looking at, but if it is, you can complete this form as many times as required until you are finished. Next thing is the samples. Now the first part of the sample section you're going to complete on site. The next part you're going to complete later on when you're in the office and you've got your sample results back. So let's go ahead and we'll start recording some samples that we took on site. First of all, I'll add a new sample item. I'm going to say I was on the ground floor. The location, let's say the kitchen for this one. pop in your sample ID. Now you've got the option to choose either air sampling or surface sampling, depending on what type of sampling you're doing. You can see each has its own options. So surface sample requires some additional fields here. I'm going to say surface sampling and tape, and I'm going to choose a condition. If you're doing an outdoor control sample, check this box here. Now you can take a photo, usually of your equipment, to prove that you've sampled correctly. So I'm going to select one for my gallery, but again, you would generally use the phone camera or the tablet camera. Here's a picture of my tape sample. Now the lab results aren't ready yet, so don't check this box quite yet. We're going to do this later on when we're back at the office. Now click Save, and that's our sample added. Next, you can record any specific observations or interpretations and recommendations about various parts of the building. I'm not going to do this right now, but you can see it's very simple. You're simply filling out this form and putting in a recommendation and some recommendations for who should remediate this issue. And you might want to give specific advice on that. This is going to form part of your executive summary later on, where you're going to start summarizing these observations into one sort of general summary observation. So at this point, that's pretty much just done on site. You might also want to take a photograph of your moisture map. You may have printed out a blank moisture map and you're now completing it on site, in which case you can add the sketch, which will actually go into your report, usually annotated, just to sort of make it clear. So I'm going to select moisture maps and say this is an internal one. I'm not going to fill any of this in right now. But you can see here is a photograph of an annotated moisture map. I'll save that. You may want to do something else later on in the office to draw that up. It's up to you. But I think for a lot of people, just a photograph of a hand-drawn moisture map is probably enough for your clients. So that's us done on site. And at this point, we can actually mark off some of these pipeline stages as complete. If you remember when we set up the job, we chose the Mould Investigations pipeline. By doing so, it suggested these 5 stages that need to be complete in order for the job to be complete. So we've done the history. We can mark that off as done now. We've actually done the site work now, so we can mark that off too. The lab results, QC, and issued stages are not yet complete, so we'll leave those as incomplete for the time being. I'm going to navigate back up to this main screen just to check I've got no more jobs on. I don't, and I can head back to the office. So let's maximize our dashboard, and we're going to take a little peek at the report. In order to do that, navigate to the report you're interested in, and we're going to select a layout. Now we only have one on this particular template, so I'm going to select the Mould Investigation Report layout. Let's view the report and see what it looks like. So here we are. We can see that the report's already starting to take shape. There's that picture of the building that we took, and we've got this fancy looking cover page. We also have some light branding here on the bottom. If I scroll ahead, you can see we have various errors that need resolving. We can come back to those later. Basically, what it's saying is we took a lab result sample, but we still haven't got the results in. And we've got various sections awaiting input. So you could complete those in your leisure, and those errors will disappear. Now, this information has been pulled through from our job, and you can see the building that we were in and the surrounding area, also who was on site at the time. If I scroll down, you can see we've got a table of contents. This is automatically generated from the data that you enter. And as I scroll ahead further, you'll see we have various sections still awaiting input. Those are those errors that you saw before. We've got our basic information about the property and the occupants. This is going to form the beginning section of the report. And then, of course, we get to some information about mold in general for anyone who's reading for the first time and doesn't know too much about it. Scrolling ahead, you can see we've got various classifications on the different climate zones and so on. And we have a history of water events and an air quality table. So these are those humidity readings, temperature readings we took, and you can see we've color-coded these to highlight any warning areas. So in this case, the humidity was just too high, and therefore it's busting out of one of the ranges. Now scrolling ahead, you can see we've got our inspection and sampling results along with our moisture maps and so on. This table is still incomplete because we're still awaiting the lab results. So let's go ahead and we'll pop those in now. In order to do so, go back to the dashboard, open up the sample section. You can see we took one sample, it's a surface sample here. I'm going to make this full screen and I'm going to open up this item to have a better look. If I scroll down, I now have the option to add lab results. Now there's quite a bit to add, so I'm not going to add this right now. I'm going to add them in the background and navigate back to the sample list. Great. Now that we've added the sample results, we can head back to the report and you can see that first error has disappeared. All that's left to do is to complete the executive summary sections, and once they're finished, these yellow sections will be completed and you'll be ready to issue this report to your client. So I've gone away and I've completed some of those executive summary findings, recommendations and conclusions, and you can see the errors have now disappeared. This report is ready to issue. So the last thing you want to do is to tap the download PDF button. Here we are now looking at the completed PDF, and this is what you're going to send to your client. So just give it a once over, make sure everything's okay. And you can see we've made a few changes here. We've got the page breaks. We've got page numbers now. What you'll also notice is that these links will still work. You can still click on these, even on the PDF. It will take you to the relevant section. So I'm happy with this. I can send this to my client. Now there's just a few more back office features I'd like to show you before the end of the demo. So let's head back up to the dashboard. So here we are back on the dashboard and we've completed all of the stages now. So I'm going to mark off lab results as completed, QC is also completed, and issued has been completed too. So this job is considered complete. If we head back up to the jobs list, I'm going to show you a few of the other features available. So this dashboard jobs list is effectively a replacement for your office whiteboard with all of your jobs scribbled on. It's any jobs that are currently in some state of incompletion. In other words, one or more of the pipeline stages haven't yet been completed. And when you've got quite a few jobs on the go, this is going to be a great way just to remind yourself where those jobs are up to. If you've got a big team as well, different members of the team can be siloed or working on different tasks, and they're not getting confused, they're not getting overwhelmed. They can just see the things they're working on. So let's look at some of the powerful search and filter tools available to us. Now let's say I want to find all of my mold inspection jobs. All I do is select the pipeline drop-down and select mold investigations. Now I don't have any incomplete jobs. The one we've just finished is now marked as complete, but you can see we have that job here. Now, if I select a different pipeline, for example, asbestos surveys, I know I've got a lot of different jobs here. So if you have multiple job types that you're involved with, this will let you filter them and see just those job types you're interested in. We can go one step further and say, show me all of these jobs awaiting, in this case, floor plans. Now, the prior stages have been complete and the subsequent ones haven't. So this is great if you're doing a day of floor plans, for example. You could work your way through this list, marking them off as done. Now, let's say we have a client on the phone and they're asking about the status of their job. We can start typing the name of the client into the search field here. And although this has a typo, you can see it's picked up my client. I've said Northumbria University instead of Northumbria University, and it's still managed to find it. We can also chain on various search queries and tags. So for example, if I was only interested in jobs for my own user, I could select them here. And you can see now the search is looking at both the user and also the client as well. So there were lots of other features I could show you. That was just a really quick rundown of the Mould Investigation Report using our software. And at the time of this recording, it's only just been finalized. So there were parts I probably glossed over because I wasn't 100% sure about. but I have every confidence in this template and our template developers, and also with the help of Nicole Bijlsma, we've been able to create something really helpful here, I'm sure, for a lot of people in this industry. So if you're interested in creating mold investigation reports quicker and more effectively, please get in touch with us, and one of our team can set you up with a demo account, and you can have a little play around with this for your business and see if it's a good fit. Hope this reaches you well. All the best. Bye-bye.